Good morning and welcome back to a brand new video. So I am talking slightly quieter because I'm sat in the dining room / playroom and the kids are asleep in the living room, so kind of got to be quiet because they're both pretty grumpy. But today's video, I thought we'd do a little story time of why I was away for so long. Apart from the obvious, apart from moving house, but there is literally so much more that has gone on, so I thought we'd do a story time. I absolutely love story times. I love listening to people's stories and everything like that, so that is today's video. This could potentially be quite a long one, so grab yourself a nice hot drink and of course some snacks, and we will get on into today's video. So apart from the obvious, which was moving, I have been away for quite some time now because so much has been going on. So I'm going to try and start at the beginning. So as you guys are aware, I lived in a 2-bed first floor flat, and that flat was perfect for when it was just me and Summer, and then obviously James eventually moved in, and we really didn't have any issues or complaints about that flat because it was perfect at the time. I did always say that I would probably only be there a year and then we'd be out, but it didn't quite work out that way, which was fine. Obviously then we went on to have Penelope and things were okay. Like, we started to feel a bit cramped but nothing major, and then that is when we started to have issues with damp and mould. Obviously it was there before, but it wasn't too bad. It was manageable, but it started to get quite bad. And then, as you guys know, when Penelope was 6.5 months, I fell pregnant with Lennox, and we just became so cramped, so on top of each other, no space, and the mould went crazy. So during all this, obviously we were suffering really bad with the mould in the kids' room because Penelope eventually moved into Summer's room, so that was 2 of them in quite a small bedroom. And then Lennox was obviously in with us. Again, there was 3 in there, 2 in the other, so it was overcrowded anyway. During this time, we had the insulation done in the walls, and they decided to do this in the middle of winter. What should have only took a week, we were left almost 2 weeks with no insulation in the walls. So the mould and damp went completely crazy. It just spread like wildfire. So once the insulation was put back in, it wasn't done properly, so it was still causing issues. After all this, I had decided to do a big clear out of the kids' room, and as I was doing this, I noticed that their clothes, which I will insert a photo, their clothes had started to go mouldy. Like, everything just felt damp. Like, before it just felt cold, but it literally was at the point where clothes were bone dry, but they'd come out feeling damp, and they would smell really sour, really damp, and just not very nice. So at this point, that was kind of the last straw for me, because it's affecting my kids' health and it's now making their clothes go mouldy. Like, it's just completely spreading. Penelope ended up with a chest infection, which they say was caused by the damp and mould spores. This had actually gone undiagnosed for nearly 7 weeks. Bearing in mind, I had taken Penelope to the doctors on 3 different occasions and they told me there was nothing wrong. Then obviously Lennox ended up in hospital. Again, they couldn't say whether it was down to the mould or not, but he ended up with RSV and bronchitis. So that was kind of like a stress. I had all that to deal with, like both kids being really poorly. Like, Lennox spent the night in hospital because they originally thought it was meningitis, and yeah, it was just kind of a nightmare. So at this point I decided, like, enough was enough. Like, we shouldn't have to live like this. And I'm not saying that like I'm above everybody else, because I'm not, but the fact that I was on a first floor, 2 kids under 2, the block of flats wasn't secure, and I had to leave my pushchair downstairs because I physically couldn't get it in the flat. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get it up the stairs. And like the damp and the mould and the overcrowding, like we were breaking our tenancy. Like it's stated in our tenancy, no more than 4 people. And on both parts, both myself and obviously my housing association were breaking the tenancy. So I decided enough was enough. I went to my housing coach, which is someone that kind of keeps an eye on the neighbourhood, checks in every now and then. I had gone to her and sent all the photos, absolutely everything, like my bathroom, bedrooms, windows, everything. The only 2 rooms in the house, well, in the flat, that wasn't mouldy was the kitchen, because that was newly done in 2021, and the living room, because it's quite a big space, we didn't really get much damp and mould in there, just the fact of like mould around the windows. And I sent all that over, and they were like, right, this is the next steps. We will send out an inspector. And I kid you not, this inspector was so rude. Honestly, it made me angry more than anything. So he came out and done the inspection, and he basically said that I shouldn't dry my washing inside my flat, which I get, I understand that. But when you've got nowhere to dry your washing, and I'm not allowed to dry it out in the communal area because it's a fire risk or something, not allowed to do it out there. I said, well, where am I supposed to do my washing then? Because there was 5 of us, I get through a lot of washing. He said, well, either dry it in the bathroom or in the kitchen. So I was like, I already dry some of the washing in the kitchen, but have you seen the size of the bathroom? Like anyone that knows, who's either been to my flat or obviously online, like you can't even turn around in that bathroom at the flat. Like it's so tight, like you can't dry your washing in there. He said, well, if it's that much of a struggle, take your washing down to Morrison's, because my local Morrison's have tumble dryers and washing machines. And I was like, well, I am not taking my kids' clothes there when I know people do like their pet bedding in there. It's not going to be covered in like pet hair. So that was like the first thing that really made me angry. Then he basically said, obviously there's a lot of condensation, which yes, there was, and that was down to cooking and bathing my kids. So basically he was saying, I've got to let my kids starve, and we basically have to let them smell. Then he went on to say that 5 of us shouldn't be living here, as if it was my fault. Like, I am fully aware that 5 of us shouldn't be living here, but no one seems to want to help us. We literally only went up a band on the council, and basically they said that Lennox isn't classed as a person. So if he's not a person, then why does he have a birth certificate? And then the final straw for me, he was literally just like, you're too cluttered. I said, and before I had a chance to even say anything and say, well, how can I declutter when I've got 3 kids as well as 2 adults? What am I supposed to do? Get rid of one of the cots, one of the bed? Like, what am I supposed to do? Just ship off some of the kids? He literally cut me off and started going on about other things. So at that point, it made me really angry. He was really rude, and his attitude towards me was disgusting. So I did put in a complaint, and then I decided to go further, and I decided to contact my local MP. They kind of just wanted all the information that has kind of been thrown back and forth between me and my housing association. But unfortunately, there wasn't much that they could do. They basically just said, try environmental health, which was our next step. We went to environmental health. They then come out, and again, they basically said that 5 of us shouldn't be living here. They're not made for 5. And again, that my son isn't classed as a person until he's 1. If I'm being completely honest, the person from environmental health, he really generally looked like he probably should have been retired by now. He kind of didn't really understand why he was there. He was trying to tell me that my heating wasn't working properly, but in fact there was absolutely nothing wrong with my heating. It was all working fine, and they were kind of just handing the book. So at this point I was kind of like, enough is enough, like I am done, we need to get our kids out of here. I physically cannot let them live in these conditions, like it's not fair. So me and James had the conversation and we said, right, the only way that this is going to work is if we look into going private, because we generally can't afford to buy. We just physically can't do it. So private renting was the only option. So we, over the last like 2.5, 3 months, we have literally worked our asses off to be able to save to go private. So we actually looked at quite a few properties. The first one we were really excited about, but it just wasn't big enough, and lo and behold there was damp and mould in the property. I was like, that's just a no-go. The second one that we looked at, we fell in love with, and we were already like, application went in, but unfortunately we didn't quite meet the criteria, because there's quite a few stages and steps that you have to meet before even being able to like go view or anything like that. So we were kind of gutted about that one. At that point I was kind of like, it's never going to happen. Then literally for like 3 weeks nothing came up, and I was like, I don't think we're doing the right thing, like there's just nothing for us. And then this one popped up and we came to view it, and then we were literally left like cold turkey. Like we heard nothing for about 3 weeks, and then literally like the Friday before we found out it was ours, they were like, we need references, we need this, we need that. And we literally had the stress of going through all that, and they did it through a third party, like to do all the checks, and they really did mess up massively. So we kind of had to fight and battle and say, no, we can afford it, we don't need a guarantor, like I don't understand how you've messed up so badly. And then on the Tuesday night at 6 we had the phone call to say, yes, it is yours. So I was just like, oh my god, like it's finally ours, we don't have to deal with like the damp and the mould. It was such a relief, honestly. It was just crazy. But in amongst all this, I had gone through some personal heartbreak myself. And if you don't follow me on TikTok, I basically went through a miscarriage due to faulty contraception. I kind of have gone into detail over on there. If you want to go and have a look, I will leave my TikTok in the description. I don't really want to go too much into it now, because I just trying to stay focused and look forward rather than looking back. But I had the heartbreak of that, and honestly, like as much as we weren't ready, and the fact that we said that we didn't want any more, it still hurt nonetheless. It was still really painful, and it was just, with all, like with everything else going on, like dealing with the poorly kids and dealing with the nightmare flat, like I was becoming like severely depressed, because I just felt like my kids deserved better, and I felt like I couldn't give them what they wanted or what they needed. And then obviously going through that, I literally fell into probably one of the darkest places that I've probably ever been in my life. But we finally came out the other side. I am feeling so much better, and now that we are out of that flat, I can finally say goodbye and close that door. Like I don't have to even think or look back. Like we literally have 2 more weeks until we hand the keys in for that flat, and it's done. Like I haven't been up there for a few days. We do have to go back up this weekend to go and clear the shed and remove the carpets and a couple of other bits of furniture that needs to go. But literally once that is done, I am not going back. So I am just so excited and so relieved that that's done. But that's kind of like pretty much all that's sort of been going on, and why I haven't really been filming or really doing anything. Like I got to the point like I was so embarrassed to even film or even have people over. Like it was just so embarrassing. Like you walk in, you could smell like the damp and the mould and like the sourness I can't even, and like the air was just so thick and it would make you cough and you would just constantly be ill. And I think this is probably the best that any of us have felt since moving out. That's going to go ahead and conclude today's video. I really do hope that you have enjoyed. Again, as always, if you did, please smash the thumbs up and also click the subscribe button down below. And I will see you guys in a brand new video very, very soon. Bye guys.